This is a reply to Let's Fix North American Auto Racing, an episode of Shakedown. This particular podcast or response is going to be focusing on the fans and participation. So let's get started. Generating more participation. You see I have 5 bullet points here. The first one is heavier manufacturer involvement. This is not to say that manufacturers are not involved. They have to be more involved, i.e. they have to put more money into especially grassroots racing to generate more interest and more talent across the board. This is very simple. The reason why some manufacturers are cutting back their involvement in some racing is because they're not getting the return on investment. In other words, car sales. For people that say manufacture tires or manufacture other components or lubricants or anything that has to do with automobiles, they're not seeing a return on investment, so they pull back their involvement by encouraging different incentives inside of racing, i.e. streamlining the classes, which I'll cover in the next bullet point, and making it more affordable to go racing, which is the third bullet point. The manufacturers will be more encouraged to get involved in racing to help bring the cost down to the grassroots, which is the middle class or the basis of where all racing starts traditionally. My second bullet point is the further streamlining of the classes and elimination of the vintage cars from SCCA competition. These are the Fiat X19s, the Triumph TR6s, these English cars that have, and Italian cars in some cases, Alfa Romeos, that have disappeared from our roads a long, long time ago. They're being kept alive by enthusiasts, rabid enthusiasts. That's great, but they belong vintage racing, not involved in a club racing where it's mostly cars built in the last 15 to 20 years, if not 5 to 10 years. And I would really like to cut that down to about 5 or 10 year window and start pushing some of the older iron out. My third bullet point is, again, encouraging new car purchases to replace a lot of the old cars that are currently being run by various individuals via heavy discounts through membership through NASA, Pro, SCCA, and NHRA. This is an easy way to, get, say, a couple of $1,000 or a substantial discount on a brand new vehicle. This is, a basis of affordable grassroots motorsports. The cars have to be affordable. One example is, Chrysler back in the early to mid 90s supported the Dodge Neon by building a specific model they felt was good enough for competition. It came with adjustable shocks, it came with stickier tires, a heavier duty cooling system, and these sorts of power steering, these sorts of things to dominate through sheer numbers SCCA Showroom Stock B and Showroom Stock C, and also SCCA Pro Solo. And I forget which class the cars ran in back in those days. But even a standard Neon Highline or Sport was competitive in autocrossing. So that car was affordable, $13,000. And the contingency program that the Chrysler Motorsports sponsored or, furnished at that time was very, very generous. You could easily run an entire season just on the money you got in contingency if you finished in the top 3. These things don't happen anymore, and they need to. The manufacturers need to be involved. This is what I talked about the heavier manufacturer involvement. Right now, they pull back because people are buying, SUVs and CUVs and cars like that. More so than little C segment sedans and B segment coupes and hatchbacks. So, fourth bullet point, more driver development via online simulation competitions. Yeah, iRacing, I think if you win a championship with one of the different events they have, you win, I think, a two-day session at, Skip Barber, I believe. Yeah, check on that. You have the Nissan GT Academy via, Gran Turismo 5 and Gran Turismo 6, the demo, and also the full game that's supposed to come out before the end of the year. On PlayStation, 3, not PlayStation 4, by the way. Well, lots of competent, fast race drivers have come out of GT Academy. Jan Martinborough, Lucas Ordonez, and others. One of them was on the pole for the Continental Tire sports car race at Road America this past weekend. And one of them has won their class at Le Mans, or on the podium, on the podium at Le Mans. Not this year, last year. Okay, so very, very fast, and they're also been on the front row twice in the Blank Plan Endurance Series. So, like I said, that's an easy way to find drivers is through these different racing simulations. Also, I'll mention another one, Norbert Michaelis, who races in World Touring Car Championship, and he's actually won a couple of races. But he was constantly beating a World Touring Car regular in online simulations, and he went to his team and said, "Hey, you should look at this guy." So, and they gave him a test, and they were pleased, and the rest is history. And my final bullet point on this particular side, I guess this is parochial. Nobody really talks about this very much, but I guess it's hard to get insurance for your competition, or to insure yourself in competition. You get an accident, you have an accident on pit lane, somebody runs over your foot, you wreck the car, whatever. You don't have, it's difficult or really expensive to furnish insurance for these activities. So something needs to be done here, and I propose a nonprofit to get the profit motivation out of furnishing insurance for these activities. Let's move on to the next slide. And we're going to be talking about fandom, fans in general. Engaging current fans and encouraging new ones. Well, it seems like the $700 million question is, how do we all get new fans? Well, NASCAR seems to have a waning fan base because most of their fans, I think, are in the 40 to 50-year-old range, and they're not attracting new fans. Well, they think they can do some of that by having, Danica Patrick and Ricky Stenhouse and some of these other people. I would go in on Ricky Stenhouse in the 10-gallon hat, but I'm not going to right now. And I think it is offensive to the other 80 or 90% of Americans that aren't country music fans, that aren't into the cowboy motif. So I'll just leave them alone for the time being, and we'll go with the first bullet point. The first bullet point is increase the fees, whether it's sanction fees, entry fees, whatever it is. Increase the fees enough to be able to pay the corner workers and other track workers that are volunteers. And this is something that's been deeply overlooked and not talked about very much. Again, sort of parochial, but racers depend on a volunteer workforce at the racetrack, specifically road courses, road racing. The IndyCar, ALMS, Grand Am, World Challenge, any of these major series, even the WEC when it comes here to COTA next couple of weeks, they are going to depend on SCCA volunteers, corner workers, to help get their cars out of gravel traps and these sorts of things. Okay, so on top of that, the workforce, the volunteer force, is aging. Most of these people are in their 50s and 60s, and we're not at a crisis point yet, I don't think, but this has been talked about on a regular basis in some circles for the last decade that I can remember. And this is a coming problem that needs to be solved, and I figured the easy way to solve that, and also maybe racing does its part to help with the massive unemployment problem with today's youth, 25% in America and the 50 and 60% range in Europe, is to encourage young people to become corner workers and stuff like that at the racetrack, but you're not going to get them to do it for free. You're going to have to pay them. Second bullet point, let the public know who you are, so personal connection can be made. And this is something that racing just doesn't seem to get. On most levels, it's very opaque. Everybody wants to sort of keep to themselves, keep their finances and everything to themselves, which is understandable, but wants to keep their families away, or their daily life away from the racetrack. Well, that needs to be changed because, stick and ball sports understand this immensely. Auto racing, not so much. But we do have our personalities in racing that have transcended racing. In other words, the general public knows who they are. We're talking about Kim Block. We're talking about Travis Pastrana. And to a lesser extent, people like Mike Skeen, Tanner Foss. These are people that have made personas on YouTube, on Twitter, Pine Rest, Tumblr, and some of these other, social networks, Facebook. But they've put themselves out there and made a personal connection to the fan base. There's the Said heads, that follow around Boris Said. That's another example. But like I said, they've made that effort to extend out to their fan base. A lot of drivers should be doing this. It should be like sort of marketing 101. But they're not doing it. And we need to encourage not just the drivers, but the teams to get out into the, public, to get out into the community and tell them about the race car, tell them about the races coming up, these sorts of things. Go to car shows, be in parades. Michelin a couple of years ago did something with the LMS teams that didn't go to Le Mans when the first year they returned to test days. I think that was 2000. I want to say that was 2010. This can be done. It's easy to do. Somebody just needs to do it. Somebody needs to force all these different organizations to do it. Racing can gain more fans by making a connection to the fans instead of just building it and they will come. Bullet point number 3, or the third one. Better promotion of other series and events beyond the big 3. And again, this sort of goes back to making the second point, which is making that personal connection. Okay. It's not being done. And I don't see all the old school types of promotion that other people use that is effective for them. Billboards, park benches, taxis, buses, television, radio even. I mean, and not radio, where that covers sports or something like that, but radio, where, people listen to urban music or something. They're not promoting these events. I'm sort of shocked that the Long Beach Grand Prix is as packed as it is every year. In a way, with all the different things you could be doing in Los Angeles, but it's an annual event. It's been going on for over 20 years now. I guess this becomes sort of normal. And I guess that, they have like sort of a built-in fan base and it sort of grows and ebbs and flows and stuff. But it's a popular event and a destination event, every year. So I guess that makes sense. But like I said, and Toyota does a pretty good job of promoting it. So I can't really jump on them too much. But with the series as a whole need to do better. This new USRC needs to really get on the ball with promotion because, they've sort of been slow with coming out with, what cars are going to be allowed in the series, what rules they're going to have, what the schedule is, how the events are going to be run, these sorts of things. And they've lost all momentum. Remember, the press conference and the announcement was made back in September of last year. And they've lost all momentum. All. It's amazing. And point 4. More dedicated online streaming of races by building apps for smartphones, tablets, and TVs. You could leverage your fan base. There's quite a few people that are computer literate, and programming literate, that are out there among the fan base that could help you build an app So you can install it on a LG TV or a Samsung television, so you don't have to go specifically to the website to watch the live stream, or the little pre-race show, the post-race reports, or whatever content you want to put on the website. You shouldn't just depend on people going to a website on a laptop or some other connected device. We should be at the forefront of streaming and getting the content to the people, into their hands, onto their televisions, onto their game consoles, onto the media box, on their little media boxes, their Blu-ray players, whatever. But there should be a more concerted effort to do these things. And that will help a ton in building a new fan base. Having ESPN3 on the Xbox 360 but not on the PlayStation 3 doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know that, it sounds like some secret handshake was made somewhere. But series like the LMS, who depends on the ESPN stream, should be apoplectic over stuff like that. Okay. And they control their own production, so anyway. But like I said, those are my bullet points. Excuse me. And like I said, this was a video reply to what Leo was saying on Shakedown a couple days ago. And like I said, and I do have a blog. I'll get that to the next slide. And like I said, this is not the first video. There's going to be another video concerning some of the other issues I have with racing. There's tons of them. I haven't even touched on diversity yet. Being an African American, that is very near and dear to my heart and stuff. The fact that racing is awfully Caucasian. Anyway, but you can go to my blog at PF Motorsports. PF stands for Parc Ferme. And check that out. And I have some articles. One of the more popular articles on there is why, or what's not happening, or why isn't the Continental Tire Series promoted more vigorously by either the automotive press or the manufacturers themselves, which I find amazing. You can also follow me on Twitter at DJ4Money. And like I said, I follow John Heimbaugh, that's Midweek Motorsports and Radio Le Mans, and some other people on there, Simon Pagino, some other folks. So I'll be using Twitter more vigorously going forward, and I'm going to have a Facebook fan page, and I'm also working on a podcast. Talk to some racing personalities. And just people involved in the media in racing that you don't normally get to hear from in broadcast media. So I'm looking forward to that, and that this is sort of a part of that, this video. So anyway, go ahead and like I said, log on to the website, tell me what you think, leave a comment, and like I said, join me on Twitter, leave a comment, whatever, and I'll talk to you guys soon.